Some people say the Lotus Elise is one of the best handling sports cars in the world. Some people even put it in the same category as a Ferrari or a Lamborghini in handling stakes. Well, today I'm driving a Lotus Elise R, which is the successor to the 111R in the Lotus Elise range. And although this time there are some minor refinements between those two latest models, they are subtle and they do improve the car slowly. First thing you'll notice about the interior of this new Elise is they have fitted out to a much higher quality than previous Elises. Everything is really just a little bit tighter and a bit more plush. I suppose that is to try and differentiate themselves from, say, the Caterham and the Westfield market, you know, the track day cars that do so well. Basically, it means that from now on you can drive to and from the track in relative comfort. This particular Elise I'm driving now has the Turing Pak Village, which has lots of little extra plush things, basically. Extra carpet for sound deadening, extra insulation on the roof, flashy Alpine stereo head unit with iPod connectivity, little bits of extra leather. The seats are leather, the handbrake gaiter is all leather, slightly different gear knob, just kind of polishes off the interior of the car a little bit nicer. There's also the option of the Sport Pack for the Elise as well. That features the option of a limited slip diff, adjustable suspension if you want to go that far, and also some really sexy looking 18-inch 7-spoke ultra lightweight wheels. They're from the actual Exige Racer and they only weigh 7 kilos per corner. Very lightweight indeed. Very Lotus. The weight of the modern Elises has gone up a little bit in recent years. This particular model, the Elise R, comes in at 860 kilos. With the Turing Pack, we've got to add a couple more kilos on top, I guess. That's still really lightweight though. If you think a Porsche 911 comes in at 1,800 kilos roughly, you can still see this is a real baby. But a real good thing about the Elise is its power to weight ratio. The Elise R comes in at 164 kilowatts per tonne. That's 220 horsepower per tonne. So it's still a very small car and it still delivers a really good acceleration. Lotus really have invested some money in their seat technology as of late. They teamed up with an external company for this model to bring you these ProBax seats. They got a little rubber label just here that say ProBax. Just they really are more comfortable than the Elise seats that you'd find in the older Elise, which were kind of hard, kind of Alcantara. Great for the track, but these ProBax seats are really more comfortable for longer journeys. They've also made some improvements in the cabin here, just little comfortable day-to-day things, like for example a cup holder in front of the gear stick, little trinket tray dividers to stop things sliding away in the tray here, and then between the two seats here there is a little luggage thing to store CDs and maps and other little loose things so they don't slide around the interior. So they have tidied the cockpit up quite considerably. Everything inside the snug cockpit is built very strongly but very lightweight. There's a lot of extruded aluminium used, from the pedals even down to the footrest. The footrest itself has holes cut into it just to try and lose that extra little bit of weight. It almost makes you feel guilty for having that big lunch and then getting in the car. The engine nudged up behind your back, just behind the bulkhead literally, is a Toyota sourced 1.8 litre engine with variable valve timing and lift. Basically what that means is at 6,000 RPM the lift component kicks in inside the engine and increases the power exponentially. you really need to keep it above 6,000 RPM to really get that surge of extra power, and it almost feels a bit like a small turbo kicking in for a few seconds. The rev limiter kicks in at 8,500, so you really need to keep the engine on boil between 6,000 and 8,000 to have maximum power and fun from the engine. With slightly less power as the Lotus Elise S model, it's still pretty much the same car, it's just the engine just doesn't feature as much power output. It actually produces 134 horsepower, which is 100 kilowatts. That's because it doesn't have the lift component at over 6,000 RPM that the Elise R does. It still produces a really good 0 to 100 time though of only 6.1 seconds. Worth a mention is the extruded aluminium and pressed glued together chassis of the Lotus Elise. It was a world first for the Elise, and it has the advantages over a typical welded chassis that you find on most cars. That it's lightweight, but also it allows it to flex slightly in the joints, which is particularly good on very bumpy roads like I am on right now. The other advantage is being very lightweight. The chassis only weighs 68 kilos, which is amazing.